got something a bit unusual to show you today. This box has been sent to me by one of the kind patrons to the channel, a chap who I'm going to call Al, so he retains some level of anonymity. This was liberated from a dumpster outside the Portland, Oregon Justice Center. And when he saw it in there, he thought it might be right up my street. So let's open it up and have a good look. Now, this really is just worthless junk that was being thrown out during renovations, but still, it might be interesting to take a look at it. In fact, I think I've got two of them here. Okay, so what we have here are two identical tape player machines. These would have been installed in a rack of fire alarm equipment, and there'd be a cartridge inserted in the front here, and in the event of the fire alarm being triggered, the tape would play an announcement over the loudspeaker advising people what to do. You can see from the front here, we've got the option of playing two different announcements on these, so these must be 2-track tapes. And you can see it would interface with some other fire alarm equipment. We've got a socket on the bottom here. I don't know whether I'll be able to get these things to do anything themselves. Now, you'll notice if you look at this, the cartridge layout here for the player is a bit unusual. We've got the pinch roller down at the bottom there, and there's the capstan, but then the playhead is here, and that's pointing downwards towards the cartridge. Normally you'd have the playhead coming in from the back here, and that's because these cartridges, well, they're quite thin and they don't have the tape on this side here. The tape is exposed through the top. So the pinch roller goes in the bottom here, pulls the tape across the front, the playhead pushes down onto this bit, and that's how the tape is played. It's unusual. I've never seen an endless loop tape cartridge in this orientation. You'll notice though we've got a bit of foil on here, and that will indicate the end of the loop. So it will sit in the right position on for the tape, and then as soon as the announcement is activated, it will play the first thing on the tape. And I imagine these are quite short tapes, perhaps 30 seconds or so. But yeah, I might have to take the tape out of here and thread it into something else to be able to play it. But we'll just have a bit of a play around with these, see if I can get any kind of action out of them whatsoever. I notice on here we've got a date. I don't know if you can read that. It says checked 29th of September 82. I've been having a good look around these things. I've got an interesting little eject mechanism. When you press this eject button, it effectively cocks a trigger here. So when you pop your cartridge in, it then clicks and locks it in place. So this section here raises up and brings the pinch roller into contact with the tape with quite a loud click. I think what I need to do here, take one of these mechanisms out, get access to the wiring on it, forget all this stuff, and then if we can get the two wires that go from the playhead and put those into another tape recorder, and then find the power voltage which moves this around, we can then try and play it in the original equipment. Now you can see, looking at this other one, this section here is broken off. That should be located on the side of the head there. And on here are two little metal legs, and that's what would trigger the end of the tape. Once the metal foil joins those two together, then that would stop this device from playing. We're not going to need that because we just want to get the tape playing over and over. So I might have a play around with this one since it's already coming apart. And I want to take it out of here so we can have a read at this sticker. I can see what it says, but it doesn't look good on camera. So I think what we need to do, take this whole unit out of here and get access to all the wires for it a little bit easier. Now you can see we've got this metal cage which surrounds the cartridge slots. We don't need that, and if we take it off we can have a look at the sticker that's underneath, and then we'll see exactly where this thing came from. Because whilst it's being used by this alarm company, it seems like it's an off-the-shelf component that they've just bought in to play back the messages. Okay, so that says Continue Sound, International Audiovisual Incorporated, Seattle, made in Hong Kong under license of Cartrette USA and of Star SA Belgium. So Cartrette, that seems to be the name of this format. And searching on that name does reveal a bit more information. The Cartrette was a joint venture between the US company Faraday and Star in Belgium. The format was mentioned a few times in Billboard magazine between 1970 and 72, at which point it was being touted as a compact rival to the 8-track. The specs evolved over this time, eventually settling on a capacity of 40 minutes of stereo music, but ultimately any consumer electronics ambitions came to naught, with the Cartrette only finding a niche in industrial applications such as the simplex fire alarm system that we're looking at today. Okay, we've got a couple of loose wires here. I can see where they came from. It's this micro switch. So effectively, when a cartridge is put inside here, these two wires would be joined together. That then would activate the power to the motor. Well, we don't need to worry about those. We don't need a switch in the middle of this. We can send our own power in from the other end. I'm not too sure what power this particular motor uses. I'm just going to start with low voltages and work my way upwards. So what we need are the two wires that go to the motor, which are there, and then I think those are coming out from here. In fact, we've lost the red one there as well. They're all very dry solder joints, but I can see where they go into there. Right, so I've simplified things down as much as I can. We've now got this wire which goes to the tape heads. That's got a red and black and a ground. And then we've got these red and black wires. I've reattached the red under here, put a bit of cable relief on there as well just to stop it getting detached again. Now these two go to the motor. So all we need to do now is put some power into here and we'll see if the motor will spin. I'm going to start at round about 6 volts. You can see 5.9 there. So I'll put a clip onto the end of this wire here, one onto this one, and spin it around so you can have a look at it. So we're looking for this flywheel spinning around. Let's pop the power on, and there we go. So I've got no idea if that's the right speed, but it seems to be a sensible speed for this motor. We can always adjust it, of course, by adjusting the voltage up, and that should be pulling a tape through if there was a cartridge in that position. In fact, let's just pop a cartridge in and see if that works. Because I don't want to ruin any of these. I don't know which ones have recordings on them which are blank. I think this looks like a nice new clean one. So let's just pop that in there, clip it in, and we'll see if that metal foil disappears. Oh, that didn't work. I think that needs to pop. Ah, there we go. Right, I didn't think I pushed it in far enough. So turn on the power, look for the foil disappearing out of here. It's still there at the moment. I think that belt's slipping now. Yeah, put a bit of pressure on there, the belt slips. So we'll need to put a new belt on this one as well. Okay, fortunately it doesn't look too difficult to get the belt out of there. You can see we've got a gap at this end of the flywheel, so we can get it out of the top there, and then we can get it this side of the motor. Right, so I've cleaned the pinch roller, the capstan and the tape head. We've got that new belt on here now as well, so hopefully this mechanism is capable of pulling a tape through without damaging it. Now this one that we tried earlier came apart at the splice, which is not uncommon. Now that could happen again with the others, and also the tape might be a little bit glued up inside some of these if they've been sat for a long time, but we'll give it a go. I've got another one here which at the moment looks okay. I think the splice has already gone inside there, so we should be all right. Let's just pop this in here now. Push it in until it clicks. Right, it's now in position. Let's turn on the power. It is now pulling through there smoothly. The head's pushing down against it, so this tape is currently being played. Let's find out if there's anything on it. Okay, so I've got this suitably cheap and nasty cassette player. My plan with this is to cannibalise it and use it in conjunction with that mechanism to play back the audio on those cartridges. Now this is supposed to be a stereo unit. It does have the one speaker on the front, but if we hear the audio coming through that speaker and it turns out that there are two messages playing at the same time, we can then plug our headphones in and hear those through the left and right channels. At least that's the plan. Okay, well it works, just about, so let's take it apart. Right, well we're in, and it looks like I picked the right machine for the job. because the part I need to get to is immediately accessible. You see this wire here, that's coming from the playhead. It goes into these 3 points on the circuit board, and I just need to solder the equivalent wire from the other device to those same points, and we should be able to hear back what's on these tapes, if there is anything on them. So let me get on with a bit of soldering. Okay, so I've got those connected up now. I've got them piggybacked on the original connection, so we just need to put some batteries in this and see if we can hear anything. It doesn't look pretty, but it should work. Press play, so that then this is activated. That's now listening to this. Let's turn this on. And so far, that one's probably a blank. I'm going to have to look for the foil coming past in the window here to know when we've done a complete loop. Right, well there goes the foil, and it's actually split at the point of the splice as well. Very fragile, these things. Let's try another one. Now I'm just going to stop this for a second, because I think we perhaps need to reinforce these splices before we try and play another one. So let's see if we can just pull enough out of here to get to this. And the answer to that is no, it doesn't want to come out. I wonder if there's some kind of locking mechanism in this one. Let's try again. No. Let's give this one a go, see if it'll play, or if it'll snap. Oh, that one doesn't want to move, hold on. Yeah, they're not good, these, are they? Oh! There we go, look at that, straight out again. Oh dear, these cartridges are, well, let's just say they're not the best. Right, I'm going to have to try and tape this together in the position it's at now, so let's just snip that there. Right, again, it's not pretty, but it might hold. Let's give it a go. Right, play. Right, well, nothing on that one either. Now, we do have one tape here that looks more likely to have something on it than the others. And it's this one, because it's got a number on the end. Has information on it. 1987, is that? So, I'm concerned again it's going to come apart at the splice, but if I just pop it in first, and then advance it by moving the pinch roller with my finger, and let's have a listen. Yeah, I think we've done a full loop of that one. It's definitely a worn tape, so it has been used. I think we might need to transplant that into a cassette just to check there's nothing on it. Okay, I think it's time that we take a look inside one of these. I can see a couple of screws there, so let's try and get those out and then see if that's enough to take it apart. In fact, I'm not even sure they're proper screws. I think they might be just plastic. Yeah, okay. There we go. Right. You can see we've got a very small amount of tape inside here. Just a few seconds, really. Okay, so it appears that these two pegs were indeed a braking mechanism. You see when they're pushed in, they go inside the body of the case. And they go through these holes here, which means they push on top of this and push it away from the main reel. So when they're not inside, this is held down, holding this thing in place. They go inside, they push this up, this can then freely spin. Right, looks like I'm going to have to splice all these onto a cassette now to see if there's anything on any of them. Okay, so in front of me now we have everything that we need to do this job. We have the cartridges from the fire alarm system, from which the audio tape is going to be pulled out and wound into this cassette. It's going to be stuck together with this splicing tape. It's going to be cut with these scissors, and most importantly, it's going to be wound on with this Bic pen. The only other thing that I need is a heck of a lot of patience. Oh, and there's one additional thing that makes it a little bit easier to do this, which is a razor blade, but I'm sure a lot of people are wondering why I'm not using a proper cassette tape splicing kit. Well, the answer is I do have one somewhere, I just can't find it, but it's a lot quicker for me to do it this way rather than wait for a new one of those to be delivered. So just get on with this. I'll have it done in, I don't know, half an hour or so, and then hopefully we can have a listen to what's on these tapes. The one that I'm putting in now is the one that had a number written on the label. I've put this in second, so if there is anything on this one, we'll be able to hear it, but I suspect, unfortunately, these might have just all been bulky raised. We'll find out in a little bit of time. There we go, that's the end of that one. They are very short tapes, these. They take a lot longer to splice than they do to wind, so let me move through. We've got another 4 to go, put them all together and then have a listen, see what we got. Okay, so that's everything done. Those are all the tapes wound onto this one cassette. Doesn't take up very much time at all. Now you'll notice we've got it, of course, the correct way around to be played in the cassette player. We've got the brown side here, which is the side facing outwards, and then on the inside we've got the carbon backed grey side, and that faces in towards the reels. So if we just wind this in here now, it's ready to be played in any cassette deck. If there's anything on here, we'll find it. Let's have a listen. Right, well, it turns out that all the tapes had a recording on them. So clearly the system I was using before wasn't working in some way. I don't know what I was doing wrong, but it doesn't matter. We've got the audio now. It's playing in reverse on all the tapes. I wonder what Nushtidda is when you play it the other way around. We'll hear in a moment. Maybe we can hear it if we play this side. Let's find out.
This is a drill. This is a drill.
Okay, so I've captured all the audio from both sides of this cassette. I'll play it to you in a second, and I can report that there are just 2 announcements on there repeated across all 4 cartridges. So each one of these has 2 announcements on it, which will be selected with these switches on the front of the machine, which one you'd want to play out over the speakers. And you'd have to be quite careful as to which one you played because they are a little bit different to one another. Let's have a listen to the first one.
This is a drill. This is a drill. This is a drill. All occupants report to the nearest stairway exit door and await further orders. Do not enter stairway. This is a drill. This is a drill. This is a drill. All occupants report to the nearest stairway exit door and await further orders. Do not enter stairway.
Okay, so that one was the drill. As you'll notice, it repeated itself, but that was one long recording. I overlaid the second half of the recording over the first, and I've noticed that the timings are different. So I played the whole thing to give you the full effect. Right, now the next one is the one that was playing in reverse when I was listening to it. And that's, of course, because I flipped the cassette over to hear that track, whereas on the cartridge, they're running parallel to one another. Now, do you remember the thing that was repeated 3 times? It was like nush-net-na, nush-net-na, nush-net-na. Can you think what that word is? It comes in right at the beginning now. So here you go.
Attention. 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 An emergency has been reported. All occupants walk to the nearest stairway exit and walk down to your assigned re-entry floor or main lobby. Do not use the elevator. Walk to the nearest stairway. Do not use the elevator. Walk to the nearest stairway.
Okay, so that was the emergency evacuation announcement, and you can understand therefore why you need to be careful as to what position you left the switches in on the front of here, whether you wanted to play one announcement or the other. I suspect that they'd only move it out of the position that would play the announcement you've just heard when there was a drill. So if someone was doing a fire drill, they'd come down to this machine, activate the drill announcement, activate the system so that it plays that, and then straight afterwards swap it back to its original position. The first switch here labelled test, I think if you were to activate that, it would have played whichever announcement you wanted to hear over this loudspeaker on the front. You've got a volume control for this here, but it wouldn't play it out over the whole system, so that you could just test that the tape was all right or it got the right announcement on it. Now, on that subject, we do have all these other cartridges which had the exact same announcement on, and most of them seem completely unused. And I think what's happened with this is that the system was installed, it had these cartridges recorded for it, all duplicates of one another, and then they said, look, we'll put one cartridge in the machine here, but swap it out every year, or perhaps swap it out if it starts sounding worn or something like that. As it was, someone just left that cartridge in there because there is one very worn cartridge and a load of cartridges which have the same announcement on, which appear virtually as new. When you heard the announcements before, they sounded nice and clear on there. It's because those tapes aren't worn out. There was one that was worn out, that's not the one I played you. But interesting little system, these cartridges. Might not seem like the most reliable thing from the demonstration I've given you, but it's just come apart at the splice. A bit of glue has dried out, and again, they're 40 odd years old. The same thing happens with 8-track cartridges, unfortunately. It's the point of failure of these kind of devices. But I thought it was interesting having an endless loop tape that plays through a little hole on the top. I've never seen that before, and unlike an 8-track cartridge where the sponge turns to dust, this thing in here, that's still perfectly fine. So it could have lasted forever if the glue hadn't given out on these ones. But thanks to Al for sending this system over. Initially, when he mentioned it to me, I said, oh, just send the cartridges. I don't think I'll be able to get the machine to play. Well, as it was, we had a good go at it. Obviously, we're not going to get all this stuff wired up, but getting the mechanism to function, putting a new belt on it, getting the tape to move with the mechanism, all seemed like things were going well, and then attaching it up to another device. But unfortunately, there's just no audio coming out of it. So obviously I've done something wrong there. I was probably getting a bit too big for my boots, thinking I was clever or something. The simplest solution worked, sticking it in a cassette and playing it on a machine and then recording it and reversing the audio for one of the tracks. And as it was, it's a good way to spend a bit of time. Perhaps not the most productive thing in the world, but I hope you've enjoyed watching this one. So thanks to Al for sending it over. But that's it for the moment. As always, thanks for watching.